1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary.
Homeboy trippin', he ain't know I got a gun. When it come to pop, man, we do shit for fun. You ain't got one, brother, you better run. Now I'm in the back getting head from my huns. While she going down, I break it off what I done. Smoking on my blunt, saying she ain't having fun. Bitch, give it back then, you don't need none. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. Everybody in the club getting tipsy.
Everybody in the pub getting tipsy.
That's
It's the
right.
boys
Buckle
from
up.
Illinois.
Buckle up, bitches. Let's go.
Yeah, it's
Been
pub
a
time.
week. It is pub time. And we've got an interesting one today. It's pretty on brand for us. We usually we go one of two directions, I feel like. Either something that we're really interested in or something that we really dislike. And today we're definitely going down the road of something that we really dislike.
Oh, 1,000%. I bring this up all the time. I kind of came across this guy a while ago. I put him down on my list. He was wrongfully, I feel like he was wrongfully placed in prison, which people love those kinds of stories.
Well, there's
Usually,
there's quite a bit of that, though, I would say, right? I mean, this is a unique situation, and more so, I guess, a matter of perspective, right?
Yeah, I mean, as we get into it, we'll see he obviously broke the law, but I would say the assholes he broke the law against, that I'd give some leniency to this guy. I mean, to be honest, fucking give him a badge, pin a medal on him.
So, before we get too far into it, it's been fucking cold the last few days, and
Don't even fucking start with cold.
you've been
you
working
telling me?
outside and said cold.
I was about to say, you ain't got no heater in that warehouse.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Oh fucking,
But
I've been dying.
I
Been
believe it. And I gotta know,
dying.
like, because you're working with other people that are out in the cold. Are there like those guys that bitch out or um
Oh yeah, you
people
get
who
them.
do things to avoid having to work outside,
Oh, that
stuff like that?
fucking, that's everyday carpenter shit. You
I
always
see.
find a way to get out of a shitty situation.
I mean, how much thinking goes into getting out of a shitty situation? Like, can you give me an example of what a carpenter might do to get out of a shitty situation?
Well, usually all you gotta do is tell these fuckers how you really feel, hurt their feelings a little bit. Usually works.
Right. But now, is that the way you view your prior situation that landed you on this job?
I do believe so, and I'm perfectly fine. And I know you keep telling me how warm he might be, but
Where was that job
fuck,
at?
us outside in Bloomington, same goddamn deal. I mean,
Okay. For
I
some
traded
reason,
one shit sandwich for another shit
I
sandwich.
gotcha. Well, for some reason, I was thinking maybe it was a little closer to home, but which would have also added to the sting. But I mean, if you're still driving basically the same distance
Oh, it was
and
farther. It was deeper into Bloomington.
gotcha. So you're on the fringe down there at Rivian,
Which
so that's not too
let's
bad.
let's talk about that a little bit. Boring, no one's gonna give a fuck. You'll know because you're from around here. But so basically, I can get from my house to Rivian in about 30, let's say 30 minutes.
Sure.
All right, moving. You get off that fucking 55 or whatever, there's like a time warp you hit. It might take you another 30 minutes to get from there to any other part of Bloomington. Is the craziest fucking thing.
It is. It's a little bit of a straight. It's like the interstate encompasses three sides of the town. Like you can get off on like 55 and kind of be on the north end of town. Obviously, 74 runs along the west and south parts of town, but it just sort of like clips the corners and then heads, northeast, southeast as it goes, like it almost in a V as it goes around the Bloomington Normal area. So you're right. It is like no matter where you get off the interstate, if you're going to the far east side of Bloomington Normal somewhere, it is like driving down a 2 or 4 lane road with tons of stop lights or stop signs and fairly heavy traffic the whole
Yeah,
way.
it's been, I don't know. There's been times where it's like, fuck, man,
There's
I'm golden.
some weird one ways.
Oh, there
I feel
is.
like in their downtown areas. Um,
A lot of times with that place too, I'll fucking get off and be like, God, I know exactly where I'm at. And you fucking get flipped around somewhere and you're like, no
weren't
fucking
w-
clue where I'm at
weren't
right
we
now.
down there one time at like a wrestling tournament? And when we left, the bus driver went the wrong way down a one-way street, and like Shane was fucking freaking out. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Bloomington, we're leaving
Yeah, leaving
Bloomington
the
Junior
tournament.
High.
Yeah, that was
Instead, just easy peasy right past Wendy's,
right.
74, let's go. I can't remember which way it went, but yeah.
Um, no, you're right though. I do think there's some more entertainment down that way than there's in Peoria, and maybe it just seems like that because we live in Peoria and we think it sucks. But
Yeah, I would say as far as a college town, ISU compared to Bradley,
oh,
I think
sure. Well,
they take the cake
yeah, it's
1000%.
a public school. They have a higher enrollment. It's their enrollment's made up of more of like people that would want to go out to sports bars and do
What do you
things
mean
like.
by that?
Well, Bradley's population or Bradley's student enrollment has gotten progressively more nerdy. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yes, Indian
A lot of
engineers.
Indians, a lot of engineers. The video gaming stuff has become really popular, and it's just
Maybe
kind of in a weird way. I mean, some
maybe
antisocial.
maybe it's the frat house and the sororities. Maybe that's where it's happening. We just
Yeah,
not invited no more.
I, I mean, I can't
No
imagine
more
the frat
GI
houses.
Joes and army hoes.
Yeah, those were the days, buddy. Those were the days. I can't imagine there's anything too crazy going on at a Bradley party these days. I don't know what's considered crazy at a college party in 2023. Maybe
Fentanyl.
it's yeah, probably right. But
Fentanyl. Which I don't know. I don't want no part of that. So
no, 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 no.
I would
Um,
prefer my cocaine fentanyl free, if at all possible.
and gosh, I can't remember. I'm gonna fucking screw it up. But I thought I heard a story about how it was some foreign country, and maybe it was China or someone like that. That we did something to piss them off, and so they basically released fentanyl into the United States.
Did you watch that? Can you tell me you watched that interview with that junkie that was talking about this?
I don't know.
We
I really
fucked
don't
up
know.
some sort of trade deal with China.
Maybe that's what it was.
They basically removed all the heroin off the streets and started
Yes.
pumping fentanyl in this place.
Right. That's
Which
probably what I saw.
logistically, that doesn't make good. That's not good business because fentanyl is more expensive. Whether you're lab creating it, you know what I mean? Like it's there's more to it than making heroin. So
Right. What about these videos you see of some of these large cities that have
oh, fucking looks like Day of the Dead.
like The Walking Dead,
Well,
just
that one in
zombies, man.
Philadelphia fucking blows my mind every time I watch it.
It's like Skid Row or whatever, right? I mean,
Oh my
you
god.
hear and what kills me every time you hop in the comments on one of those videos, and it never fails. I mean, obviously it is sad. There's people like, man, that's really sad, and that's true. But then people are like, that's someone's son or daughter,
Yes, yes,
blah
yes.
blah blah,
Mother,
and it's like,
father. Yeah.
you know what? You know what that is? Like, obviously anyone can fall into that trap, but that's someone who made a lot of poor fucking choices that put them in that situation. You know, more often than not, nobody put a gun to their fucking head and led them to that life, you know?
And I've said this before. I'm not a I don't I don't make any apologies for addicts. I'm not a tough love kind of thing because I've been in some shitty places too. I don't really expect anybody to wipe my ass either. I'm more side on the family and the children, the people missing out on that person or the trauma they've caused them, you know,
Sure.
like I don't get the idea of bending over backwards. 9 times out of 10, someone who's really addicted to something, they're gonna fucking burn you again, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I feel like
It's
this
up
is
to
a
them.
very I feel like it's a very middle American sort of, and I don't mean that in the sense of like geographically, I suppose, but it's a very average American problem, right? Because anyone that sort of is what I would consider, you and I are very much, I would say, average American dudes. And we've known people that have, we kind of know people that have gone off to do great things, but we know people that would be right at home in one of those alleys in Philadelphia somewhere.
Yeah.
And we know how fine that line could be sometimes between one side and the other. But we've also, maybe not in the most extreme way, but we've also been in certain positions where, you know, we've seen where like that crossroads is once in a while before we, you know, what you want to go left or right, like come to that point. Okay. Like this is a bad decision that will likely lead to more bad decisions. And you kind of recognize that and avoid it, you know? And I guess I feel like we may be more, I don't know, I want to say exposed or maybe aware of the whole dynamic than someone that's, you know, working on Wall Street.
Oh yeah,
You know what
we're
I'm saying?
definitely more in tune with it for sure.
I mean, we've seen what it can do to people, I think, in some ways. I mean, and not like, I mean, in different ways. Some maybe not quite as extreme as what you see on those videos, but um, you know, I feel like we've seen some different sides of it.
And the older I get, I think with a lot of this shit, it's like legalize it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Make heroin legal. I don't care. It doesn't
It's
affect me.
it's probably not it's probably not any more harmful than other things that are readily available to you that are legal to purchase. I mean, you can go buy a gallon of bleach, and if you drink it, you're probably gonna die,
No,
right?
but
I
what
mean,
I guess what I'm getting at is one day I would really like to cover the war on drugs. Just the whole idea, the money we've put into it. I think that is the biggest. I say it all the time, especially with weed, but the war on drugs in general is the biggest lie ever told to man. Like
sure,
that's fucking. They play both sides of that fence, and it is fucking ridiculous.
I agree,
You know what I
and
mean?
it's a
What
great tagline.
fucking 10 years ago, Tom Cruise comes out and makes a movie about a guy flying cocaine in from fucking Guatemala or some shit. All while, we have a huge war on drugs. He works for our country, flying the shit in fucking by the plane load. It gets
Yeah,
sold out on the streets. It gets, you know what I mean, confiscated and fucking sold right back again. It's like,
no, absolutely, and I think that, um, and I don't know if it's more the business of incarcerating these people, if it's used as leverage in some cases. Obviously, it's used as a money making venture, I should say. But the war on drugs is something that is a great tagline. I mean, because who's gonna hear that and be like, you know, well, war on drugs, that sounds like a terrible idea. You know, I mean, just the let's face it, man. Like our country is full of a lot of very unintelligent people, and when you hear something like that, you're like, that's the best idea I've ever heard. That's fucking great. I get behind it 100% without knowing anything else about it. You know, and the same could be said for all these goofy fucking slogans that these people come out with, whether it's, you know, make America great again or build back better, whatever they're shoving up
whoa,
our ass.
whoa, whoa. Yeah,
You know what
they're
I'm
always
saying?
shoving some up our
It's
ass.
it's all just taglines and
Oh, people will fucking eat them up all day long,
absolutely 100%. Well,
even at their own expense.
that video that Dick sent us this morning, man, it's like I'm just like, God, man. And the thing is, they're not any worse than the people on the far left. You know, they're not. They're just saying different crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, it,
Equally uneducated. Let's be
sure.
honest. Just blind, I guess, to
And really,
any
what's
sort of
weird is
factual evidence.
the stigma between the far right and the far left. And I'm not talking about the far right like the Bible thumpers so much. I'm talking about the far right like that TikTok that Dick sent of some fucking hillbilly rednecks in
Make
Mississippi.
America great again,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, yes. And you know, and then the far left, like the wokest of the woke, do more often than not appear to be more educated than the far right, I would say, on the surface, right? I mean, it tends to be a little bit more white collar in appearance versus blue collar. I mean, you follow me?
What
Because
are you
let's look at
saying?
it. I mean, but even like, okay,
Donkey versus elephant?
so for example, yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then like
Yeah.
a lot of liberal thinking comes out of institutions of higher education. So these college professors, things like that, they're some of the champions of some of those policies and narratives.
Right.
which everybody assumes, well, they're a college professor, they must be really fucking smart and know
Right.
what they're
But
talking about.
a lot of times they've never lived the life that they're supposedly trying to better,
True. And then
unfortunately.
on the other hand, you have, um, well, that guy wears overalls, has 4 teeth, so he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about,
Right.
and
Sign him up yesterday.
it's just the dynamic that exists is really interesting. But like you said, they're both saying equally stupid things. I just think that the left probably gets the benefit of the doubt sometimes because on the surface,
It's more
more often than
polished.
not, it's just a more polished turd, but it still smells like shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Perception these days is a huge, huge thing. I mean,
That's right.
like I
We're
said,
gonna
nothing I love more than listening to our beloved governor here in the state of Illinois tell me how, he's here for the middle class and going to help everybody out. And what do they do and it doesn't matter who it is, uh, red, blue, whatever. Every year, come January 1st, they found a new way to fucking bend you over that capital and fucking just break it off.
sure.
Every year, it's a little more tax. It's a little more tax. Their budget continues to go up. Their salaries continue to go up. We go deeper in debt, and the fucking answer is always, maybe you guys could just give a little more. Give a little more,
Hmm.
Why can't your license plates be $200 a fucking year? Why not? Let's pay a tax on the roadways. You know what I mean? They just fucking harder and harder every year. Every
Yeah.
year they give you a little bit more. They find some new asshole every year. You know what I mean? They go a little bit deeper.
And you hear a lot of people that want to attack, and like in JB Pritzker's situation, they want to attack the fact that he's a rich guy, and he tries to cut, the whole thing with the toilets in his mansion and all that goofy shit. And I feel like it's a weak argument to attack the fact that the guy's wealthy because whether
Do
and
you,
he
do
is
you want to know a really
extraordinarily
funny?
wealthy.
Do you want to know a really funny fact? So
Yes.
I would say beginning of January, they passed that ban on assault weapons in Illinois. Okay. His family, not 3 weeks after that, opens up a shooting range in the state of Kentucky
Oh, I'm
where those
sure.
where those very same weapons are by and large what is going to be shot at said firing range.
No, I
Just
guarantee it.
fucking
And
and none of
the
it makes any sense ever.
and like I'm sure that in the most intense situation, the National Guard or whoever that would be protecting him and providing him and his family safety would have
Those
assault
same
weapons.
weapons. Yeah.
um, but I think attacking their wealth is kind of a weak argument because whether it's
They're all
a
fucking rich. It doesn't
Democrat or
matter.
Republican, now he's uniquely, he might be borderlining what billionaire status possibly, I don't know, but um
Yeah, he's a
yeah,
big
no matter who
player
it
for
is,
sure.
no matter who it is, they're going to be extraordinarily wealthy. And the frustrating part of seeing it on the left more often than not is that the people they claim to be in support of and trying to help the most, they have zero sense of what it's like to walk a day in those people's shoes
Yeah,
at
and they have
all.
no ties to him. They just want that fucking
Not a
vote.
chance.
I
Sure.
mean, they'll feed
And
you whatever shit
and
you
more
want.
often than not, the taxes and things that they're imposing that are going to cost citizens more money are things that aren't going to impact that segment of the population because of their income level and the benefits that they're going to be receiving from the government. You
And
know what I mean?
they say that a lot, and like, oh, this tax break for this or this increase for this won't affect you. Who the fuck does it usually fall on?
Oh, the middle class.
Everybody right in the middle. The
Yeah,
ones that for
because
the
the
most
people
part are like, fuck it, we ain't really getting in on this argument a whole bunch.
no,
That's who gets shit on.
it is because the wealthy have the means if they don't know themselves based off their own knowledge. Maybe they gain their wealth through their own expertise, or maybe it's inheritance or whatever. But either way, they're either going to have the knowledge or the money to pay someone with the knowledge to help them dodge all these taxes in some way, shape, or form and avoid it. And on the bottom half of the spectrum, they're usually, I mean, yes, they're paying it sales tax. We all pay sales tax and shit like that, but like their income tax, I mean, fuck, you got to have an income first of all to be taxed on it, for one. But with the government programs that are in place and things like that, the whatever the level of taxes doesn't impact the poor as much as it does the middle class. Like, I mean, there is literally a pretty significant portion of the population, and this isn't even just specific to our state. I mean, nationwide, that does kind of take the brunt um, of the tax burden and things like that. I feel I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but there is
No,
almost like
hey,
a fucking weird sweet spot though, where it's like you might be better off. I mean, it's like we've seen people do since COVID when people started working from home, like especially in two-parent households, where it's like people might have realized, well, fuck, like it's costing me more to pay for childcare than I'm getting paid, or maybe I'll break even if I go to work. Let's say that, um, okay, let's use your situation, like,
hey,
you
recently we've had this conversation.
yeah, say, but like,
And
let's say, like,
I told her if push comes to shove, you keep your fucking ass here because it
right,
will cost us money
right,
for you to leave
exactly,
this house right now.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like in your situation, there's a lot like it where, it would either cost you money or at the very least, like you're gonna break even, and all your gain, and really you're gonna break even, and it's gonna be less convenient, like
Yeah,
you know,
wildly less convenient.
um, and so I think that's why you see a lot of people that have just chosen to stay home. And that's why there is kind of a weird conundrum, I think, when you get in a certain, like, income range where you're maybe better off not fucking working. Like, if you're a single mother in some cases, and I'm not saying you should take advantage of the system, but if the system's in place the way it is, like, why not benefit from the way that it's structured? And if you're a single mom that's making 25, $30,000 a year, and you're having to, or maybe you make just enough where you're not getting childcare assistance or whatever else, like you're losing your ass. If you don't have too many government benefits on your side with healthcare, groceries, things like that, you'd be losing your ass. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like you'd be better off not working and getting all that shit for free,
Oh,
pretty much.
we've
I
had this
mean,
story before.
it's
When me and my wife weren't together, single father, I called one time because I was hurting. I was hurting enough. I was on call. The lady asked me, like, "Well, how many hours do you work a week?" Well, I was like, "As many as I can." I'm close to 40 most of the time. Well, so that's way too much. I'm like, "What do you mean it's way too much?"
right,
I just wasn't making a lot of money. You know what I mean? I
right,
really didn't have the opportunity for a second fucking job.
right.
I didn't want nothing to do with you.
And that's what I'm saying. Like
They're like,
it's
"If you
like,
work more than 10 hours a week," I'm like, "Who the fuck works 10 hours a week? I wouldn't even fucking work if that was the case."
right. No, man, I hear you. And we blame the people that do it sometimes. Yeah, there's people that take advantage of it, like in a serious way. But fuck, man, like just the system itself as a whole is so damn broken, so
How
damn broken.
how did we get on this road?
I don't know,
We
man.
started with my balls been cold for the last fucking 3 weeks, and
Here we
then
are. Well,
yeah, now it's JB Pritzker's fault.
speaking of the system being broken, and we'll
Let's fix that motherfucker with our 5 for 5.
so the topic today is Jason Vukovich, who is a man who as a child was abused sexually and then took it upon himself to go, impose his own punishments on sex offenders. And we're going to tell you his story a little bit here. But before that, we've decided on the 5 for 5 to highlight the best ways to punish a sex offender. Would you like to go first? Are we going to do the same thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 5, surgical castration. I
So,
mean, button that motherfucker up. And we ain't talking because usually like chemical castration, fuck that. Get rid of it altogether.
So when you say chemical castration, is that just disarming them? Shooting
Disarming
blanks?
them, shooting blanks, can't even get it, you know. I'm not
Like
sure what chemicals they give them, but it's just non-functioning
can't
anymore.
get a boner anymore?
Limp, bud.
Gotcha.
It's cold every night,
But
every
if
day.
you I mean, would you think you're still able to feel the feelings of being aroused? You just don't
That's what
get
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Let's get rid of that motherfucker altogether. That way, that's all they'll have is memories.
sure.
If we're not gonna kill them, okay.
Right. Oh, I
If
mean,
they're
and that
not
might
gonna
be
be unalived,
right.
let's take that fucker off at the stump.
No, that's a fantastic
And
idea.
I hate to make it sound like the majority of these are men, because I guarantee there's women out there that have, there's definitely female pedophiles, predators, whatever you would like to, minor attracted persons, and maybe with them you sew the thing up. I don't know. Fuck, put a zipper on it. I don't know.
We've talked about it a little bit before how weird it is that there is a double standard on that. You know what
Huge,
I mean?
yeah, huge.
And I
Because
wonder
the
if
entire
women
time I'm talking, I just see a man. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
I wonder if women perceive it differently. You know what I mean? I wonder if women look at females, like let's say, a high school teacher that's banging half the football team or something, if they're like that disgusting person,
right,
that
they probably
predator,
do. They probably do.
whereas guys, are like, what the
We
fuck, man?
usually
Like,
fucking rub it off and be like, "Yeah, it's
oh, we're like,
oh yeah, I
fuck,
get
man, why
one. I
did
don't
those
remember having a
teachers
teacher."
exist? Yeah, like,
Exactly.
or which one of these pussies told their mom? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
it's definitely weird, but I mean, it's apples and apples. There's no difference.
right. So I'm gonna come out with, all right, number 5 for me, whatever you've done, you now become the receiver of said crimes. So everything you've done to others, I mean, well, obviously up to the point of death, you are now on the
Can
receiving end of it.
can we kill him in this list? Because I was up for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
What do you
Yeah,
think? Okay.
we can throw that in there because
Unalive them? I don't
because
know.
I have a feeling we're gonna run out of just
I
torturous things.
So to be honest, I don't know how people are gonna perceive this. I know I say it a lot, but I mean it. You know what I mean? I wholeheartedly mean what I say when I feel like any one of these fuckers. I seen some kid earlier, 24 years old, caught in Bloomington. Fucking boatload of pictures and videos and shit of people wildly younger than him. He's leading down a path that at some point in time that's not just an attraction anymore.
Yeah, I
You know
mean
what I mean?
that's
He
there's
follows through with something here
sure.
soon if he hasn't already.
Sure, because I think that they always, eventually the pictures aren't going to do it anymore, right? And it's going to be the next thing and the next thing. And, as we talked about some serial killers that maybe it was animals and stuff like that. And it's like, well, there's just no thrill in that anymore. And it's just,
Yeah,
let's
it's
move on to
got
the
to get
next thing.
bigger. It's got to get better.
And so, yeah, you're 100% right.
And unfortunately, I feel like with a lot of these guys, there's really only one solution, man. Unless you have a spot where you can just fucking put all them together, maybe I don't know, but there's only one solution, I feel like myself. And live animals. Okay, so I would like to include live animals in this. Um, not like donkey show animals. I don't know if they'd be into that riding club we talked about that one time, but I'm thinking more like I don't know, some
Lions,
alligators, something like that'd be
alligator,
cool. Yeah, something that's gonna really,
snakes.
but I want like something a little smaller. Like a lion, it's just gonna fucking kill him in the beginning.
I mean,
I mean?
like
I want something that's gonna take some just bits and pieces. I want something that's gonna really just tear one of these assholes apart.
put them in a
Some of these
pool
smaller
with
gators. I don't
piranha.
know. Yeah,
Um,
I want something big and physical, just like they thought they were.
Gotcha. Well, it's a very fine line to find something that would be physical enough to kind of impose their will, but not
What about
powerful enough
like some
for a quick
chimpanzees?
finish. Yeah, maybe.
Get a handful of chimpanzees. Those fucking things are super human.
Yeah. Um, the alligator one's not bad, but I mean that's still probably
But I want small. They'd have to be
yeah.
smaller gators. Don't give me 13. I don't want no
About like
fucking
a
swamp people
fucking
gator.
a fucking super aggressive, like has had the taste of meat, like pit bull or something,
Dogs would
you
be.
know?
I bet my
Yeah.
boy Mike Vick's got a couple.
Ooh.
He's
Um,
good now. He's paid PETA and everybody
rehabilitated.
else. Yeah, he's fine. He donates to the ASPCA now, so
But yeah, so
he's
dogs,
good.
yeah, aggressive dogs might be an option, and then, um, god dang, I'm trying to think of some other
Maybe like a
things,
smaller
man.
bear or something, like a black
Maybe.
bear or something. Not a grizzly bear. Give me a black bear. So get in there and just bat the fuck out of him for a while. Because I want it to be excruciating.
Sure.
Whatever happens, I mean,
Well, and I'll throw it out on my list, and I
sucker to
mean, we've
feel it a
talked
little
about it
bit.
before, but I'm a big fan of it. I think it's something that should seriously be implemented, and that is the concept of and they don't. I always say grab some veterans, but really, I mean, just round up any angry people you want that have some aggression to take out, and they just take turns, man. Just
What
they
about
go in the
what
room and
about
just beat the
former
brakes.
victims?
Yeah, sure. Like I
Why
said,
why
whoever.
was this not considered what we're gonna get into? Why was this not considered a healthy release?
I mean, just get in there and basically beat the person within an inch of their life, and then you let them recover back to the point that they're, not on the brink of death, and then you just repeat the process over and over and over again, which would probably ultimately lead to a really slow and miserable death over time. But that person's going to want to die. They are going to be begging to
And
die.
don't you dare give it to them. That's what I'm
And
saying. That's what I
right.
don't want. If they ever get to the point where they wanna hit the easy button,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
don't give it to them.
this situation would be it, man. Like you just let people go in there and take out their fucking pain. Like you set it up, it'd be like one of those rage rooms or escape rooms. You have
But
a
with
place down, yeah.
pedophiles,
And
fucking
yeah, it's
it's
just
amazing.
rooms with the pedophile in each room, and maybe one day the old lady pisses you off and you're like, fuck you, bitch, and you cruise
Yep.
down to the pedophile shack and
Go
get
beat
your
the fuck out
pull.
of Larry. Yeah.
Uh I mean, you probably solve a lot or not solve, but maybe prevent or avoid a lot of violent crimes that way.
We'd be fucking millionaires.
I mean,
I don't
you'd
know
have
what
to
you'd
go through a
charge
metal
to go
detector.
in that thing,
I
but
think you'd have to go through a metal detector, no weapons. I think you'd have to go in there and use your bare hands. But you couldn't physically kill the person. Like you couldn't choke them to death. You could choke
uh,
them, but maybe not to death. I mean, you'd be well
you gotta have
monitored.
them hooked up to monitors then.
Well,
Because the
some
guy
yeah, to
gets
the
in there, like, they gotta have a warning or something, like a shot clock, like, you get 10
right.
seconds, then you gotta let
Or
go.
maybe you just put a time on it, but you tell them maybe you just don't allow choking. I don't know.
Some people are into that. I
uh,
mean, I'm not sure I'd wanna choke a pedophile, to be honest, but there might be other people.
sure. So that's my next one. So s-
Um, so I heard this crazy story the other day, and I figured what better place to use it than right here? We're gonna have to cover this guy at some point in time. His name's Mad Sam. He's a mobster, worked for the outfit in Chicago, which that was like that's Capone and whatever. He's a little bit older though. This is more like 50s, 60s, 70s area. Uh, they had a guy they thought flipped on him. He never did. Unfortunately for him, they really thought he did. So they took him to a meat processing plant and they hoisted him up on a meat hook via his anus. And that's how he stayed for 2 or 3 days
whew,
while they came in and just beat the fuck out of him, about a foot off the ground too. So, he's being held up by his anus
how many times do you
and
think he
only his
came before
anus.
he was killed?
I bet I could have got 2 out. I mean, I'm not a big
Um,
pain like that kind of guy, but
no, fuck no. I mean,
yeah,
god
just
damn. Could
suspend
you
one of these
imagine? I mean,
motherfuckers like a
it's
pinata.
in
Oh, to
your
one of these
guts.
guys, it'd be fine.
Ugh,
They'd be fine. They like that.
fuck, man.
But yeah, a
That's a
nice
good.
meat
That's
locker
a
setting, like Leatherface kind of deal, but it is not going to cause a whole lot of harm. Maybe if you gently rest them, like when you do a beer can chicken, you don't just cram it in there. You gently set them down on it. You know what I mean?
right.
And I think would give enough constant pain that it would be worthwhile to do one of these
Sure.
assholes. So then every now and then you could probably bring them back down to the ground so their feet could touch, and they're like, "Oh, it's not so bad." And then you hoist them right back up.
Yes. No, I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm gonna go ahead and say, um, this one's pretty brutal, but I think that I mean, obviously it would be very brief, but just the fear and leading up to it would be excruciating, and that's a wood chipper.
In it
And maybe
the whole
just
time?
shove a hand in at a time. One
Yeah,
hand
yeah.
in the wood chipper, I mean, you hold
Just see
them
what
back,
happens.
one hand in, gone. Other hand in, gone. Leg in. By the time it's just fucking torso and a head at the end, and
I
they're
love
still
it.
alive, and then you shove them through and finish the deal. You start them with the bottom, though. You shove their fucking hips in first, head
Let them
last.
watch it. Yeah, yeah.
God,
I love that.
that'd be
You ever seen
terrible.
Fargo?
I've seen bits and pieces. I think I've seen that
You
scene.
seen the wood chipper part? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your friend there in the chipper?
Oh,
It was
that'd be
cool. It just snowed, so there's looks like a big red snow cone out in front of
yeah.
it. That'd be great. This actually, that's what I'm saying. I don't get, some of these people might not understand. They might not enjoy this episode, but that would bring me joy a little bit. Like it'd probably put a little bit of a smile on my face.
But Ryan, that's someone's son or daughter or mother or father or brother.
They
I
they
mean,
they
they're pieces of
passed.
shit. Fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. They crossed a line that should never be crossed. And it's very
You say it all the
unfortunate.
time, man. The moment
They just turned that fucker into mulch.
someone else's rights, you've given up yours.
Oh, 1000%.
For
This
sure.
is the game you get to play now.
So I think you're on number 2.
Yeah, I would like a prison setting, but unfortunately, these guys just never end up there. So this has got to be done at home. Um, I would say probably just point blank. I don't know if you've ever seen the video. So there's a guy from the 80s. He finds out his son's karate instructor had been abusing him the entire time.
Just
And this
thing
kid,
at the airport.
yeah, and you can see him off in the distance talking on the phone. And they come, the sheriffs, whoever, come walking this asshole through, and you just see him turn and put one right in his dome. I love, that dad that day fucking was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
hell yeah.
He was
Yeah.
David, and
And
he slayed Goliath. He
yeah,
fucking felt amazing.
and you know what's gonna happen to you after that. I mean, you're gonna go to prison and whatever else. But I tell you what, man, in some cases, like worth
Best
it.
part is those cops didn't do shit to him. He basically handed that gun over. They arrested him. He went off, which I still think is horse shit, but
Right.
I say it's justifiable homicide myself, but
I hear you. So let's see. Try to come up with another one here. Maybe just being left like out in the middle of the fucking desert, butt ass naked, just pure exposure to the elements. You'd have to secure someone somehow, just lay them, stretch them out, you know,
maybe
tie them to some stakes or
some
some
road
shit.
pins or something. Yeah, drive
Yeah,
the
yep.
road pins down in there.
And but see, I wouldn't want to not. I wouldn't want to put like the pins through their hands or anything
No,
or
no,
through their
no.
flesh.
Rope.
Yeah,
But
rope.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
and then tie
long
them. Yep.
pins and just tie them. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, just let the sun cook them. They're gonna freeze at night. I'm sure some scorpions or snakes will come along and check shit out. And then not to mention the fact that it would be extremely lonely. I'm for that all day. I think that'd be a solid one for sure.
So I love that you chose rope because one of my, I don't know, I'm kind of a weirdo about shit like this, obviously, but one video I vividly remember as a child, Faces of Death.
Yes.
There was a Russian criminal Can't remember what he did. Obviously, it was something fucking awful. But they tied each one of his appendages to a horse. So there were 4 horses standing around this guy. He's laying on the ground at the beginning of the video. They slowly lead the horses out. The horses start to walk away. The guy raises up off the ground. All of a sudden, it's like a shotgun or a handgun goes off, and those fucking horses split. You know what I mean? As
Oh,
fast as
man.
they can run. And each one took a piece.
Oh,
And I'm not sure you get I don't know. I don't know how long the head lasts. I don't know what exactly they feel, but I think anybody watching, if you know what this asshole did, maybe you get a little enjoyment out of it.
that'd be brutal.
Big, strong horses, though. And whoever ties those knots, I mean, get you a Boy Scout. We don't want no slippage. You know what I mean? Don't
Yeah,
you?
we
We ain't
need
doing. There ain't
we
no
need a
trial run.
3rd degree weed blow on the case.
Amen.
Okay, let's see. Was that your number 1?
That was my one, though. Faces of Death. Love it.
Man, I mean, there's some good classic ones, right? Like burning somebody alive, drowning would probably be pretty miserable.
How could you slow roast somebody, though?
Well, that's like the desert. That's what that would
Well,
do.
yeah.
And then another one I thought about, which isn't my one, but like similar to what yours is, but not quite as extreme, would be like a horse tying them up and just letting them be drugged through wherever.
What are we dragging them on? I need to know.
Fuck, man, I
This
don't
is for
know.
research purposes.
I
Make it good.
mean, it's got to be pretty fucking coarse. But I wonder what it would be like if your body was drug across like a beach, like sand on a beach for miles.
Fuck, it sounds cush, man. You're making it way too easy.
Maybe at first, but I mean, it's abrasive. It's like sandpaper. It's just really fine grit. It's gonna do the job. It's just gonna take a while.
You gotta get that horse some water because he's gonna get tired dragging this asshole around. Give him something good.
I'm just trying to think of a way you'd want to avoid the possibility of them like slamming their head off of a rock or the concrete or something and being knocked unconscious. Maybe
Come
put a
on,
helmet on them.
of all the torture situations you can think of, what would be the best way? One of these assholes. I mean, and we ain't trying to be weird. One of these assholes touched one of our kids. What are you doing to that fucking guy?
I don't know. I mean, I think that in the moment, adrenaline and emotion
Because I don't have
just
any
takes
fucking
over.
horses.
No, I
You're
don't
gonna
have
choke
any
him. You already
horses.
said that. It's
Sure,
off the
right.
board. Can't
But
choke
no,
him.
that's what's gonna happen for sure. No, absolutely. I don't. Yeah, that's what I would do. But I don't know if that's what's on my list though. I mean, what if you like sort of like hung someone, but in intervals? Like you go to hang them and like, psych, and then like pull,
Bring him back
lift
down.
them back up and
Are you
just
saying
over and
old
over
school
again.
style? I mean, it's kind of weird. 2 white guys talking about hanging
I guess so.
by their
Um,
toes or by the throat.
I mean, you got the guillotine. That's solid, but that's too quick.
Yeah, it's too quick. Way too quick. You can make it dull. I mean,
What about just like an axe,
it
like a
just
dull
breaks.
axe?
Oh yeah, and flip that bitch around. You ever heard of the Velisca axe murders?
Yes, yes,
You don't use the sharp edge because it gets stuck in the dome.
yeah. Ugh,
Use the
that's
flat
so
end, beat the fuck
terrible.
out of them.
That's terrible, man.
No, that's great. To be honest, huge fan of that.
Oh man, I'm gonna say number 1. I think and you said point blank, which you already took it. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only thing you could probably improve upon there is I'd prefer shotgun myself. Like,
Yeah.
no dental records, none of that good stuff.
I mean, maybe just dismembering somebody like piece by piece, with a fucking knife, a sharp knife, and just, doing the
Carry
research,
style. I love it.
doing the research to know like what you can like the way that they would stay conscious and alive the longest. You know what I mean? And
Really being into it. I like it. Doing your research.
so,
So
God, I tell you, we're gonna end up on some list. Some fucking cops are gonna show up at my house. And be
it's
like,
good.
hey,
You ever seen that movie with Samuel L. Jackson where he's an interrogator? He's
I don't think
really
I have.
fucking good.
No, I don't think
And they
so.
catch this guy who's a terrorist. He has a bomb somewhere in the United States. It's called Unthinkable.
Okay.
And they bring him in, and he does some fucking rotten shit to this dude. By the end of it, people like feel bad for the terrorist, but he's like, fuck you. I'm trying to keep him from blowing up the United
Sure.
States.
Right.
But he does some awfully dirty shit to this guy,
Yeah.
which would all be well suited for minor attracted people.
No, that's what this is too. I mean, keep in mind, people,
This isn't for everyday
this is,
people.
if you have children, I want you to know that Ryan and I here at the pub, like if someone were to ever touch your children in this way, like we would be first in line to
Want to do these
want
things to
to
them.
deliver these punishments to these people.
Theoretically.
Or literally. It's I mean, and I yeah, sure, it's great. You could say, well, that's stooping to their level and it's whatever, and just let the
That
justice
is
system do
fine.
its thing.
It
I'm
never
okay.
does. Let's be
No,
honest.
true.
That fucking justice system is broke.
Right. I mean, look at some of these guys, man. Some of these fucking dudes are thriving in prison. You know what I'm saying? Even some of these serial killers thriving in prison.
Yeah, and they're untouchable
And
now.
sure.
That's the bad part. We've given people that should have zero rights more rights than they ever deserve, and it's extremely unfortunate.
It is. So we're
All
gonna
right,
have to give you the
you ready
Cliff
to get
Notes
into this guy?
version. Yeah, we're gonna have to give you the Cliff Notes version of Mr. Vukovich.
Yes, the Alaskan Avenger, born
Which
in
is
Anchorage,
awesome.
Alaska, June 25th, 1975. Single mother. Jason was later adopted by his mother's new husband, Larry Lee Fulton. And instead of being his guardian, Fulton became Vukovich's abuser. He was quoted as saying, both my parents were dedicated Christians and had us in every church service available, 2 to 3 times a week. Vukovich later wrote in a letter to the Anchorage Daily News, so you can imagine the horror and confusion I experienced when this man who adopted me began using late night, quote unquote, prayer sessions to molest me. In addition to sexual abuse, Fulton used violence against Vukovich. He beat the child with pieces of wood and whipped him with belts. Which, I mean, back in the day, minus the
That
fact
part
that he's a
wasn't
fucking
incredibly
pedophile.
yeah,
I've
that
had
part
my
wasn't
ass whipped with a belt, so
yeah,
it's not,
same. That wasn't incredibly uncommon. No.
unless he's flipping that fucker around backwards, then obviously we're somewhere else. But
Sure.
years later at Vukovich's trial, his brother testified about what they had suffered as boys. We'd roll over on the bunk beds and be up against the wall, said Joel. It was my job to go first, so we would leave Jason alone. Which I've heard that very similar quote from, whether it be twins or a brother and sister, or that's frightening that a child had to go through that. Like an
Sure.
older brother, older sister. Hey, maybe he'll take me first and then he'll just be tired and leave the other one alone. Fuck you forever,
Yeah.
Larry Fulton. You know what I mean? So the people that come on like, well, rehabilitate. Fuck
No,
you.
fuck. There's no rehabilitating someone from that. I don't care what you say. I
The
don't care
f-
what your religious beliefs are, that everyone can be forgiven if they. No, there's no rehabilitating someone from this sort of thing. Just
that
doesn't
that is
happen,
that is
man.
the
Like,
one thing that grown man remembers from his childhood. That I would sleep in front of my brother just in hopes that that guy would get tired and leave him alone. You know what I mean?
sure. What I need to
Fuck
know
you
is,
forever.
would you do that for me?
But
Would
oh,
you sleep?
I'd big spoon you, son.
You'd sleep on your
I'd big
stomach.
spoon you.
So,
So,
um,
stepfather was charged with second degree abuse of a minor in 1989. Complete horseshit. Served no prison time. And according to Vukovich, no one ever came back to check in on the family
and
afterwards.
again, keep this in mind while you're hearing this. I don't know if you feel the same way that I feel right now, but just makes you fucking angry. I feel my blood pressure increasing. And this is why we said the things we said a little while ago about what we would do to these people or what we'd like to see done to them.
For years
These
and
are
years and years, we've paid
terrible people.
money to government, quote unquote, systems to take care of shit like this. Never,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Obviously, it's never paid out. So, the abuse continued until Vukovich was 16 years old. So when did mom get married? I know it kind of gave a. So I don't know, maybe 8, 10 years old. So regardless, 1 year, 5 years, once, more than enough. So while still underage, Vukovich moved to Washington State with no identification or financial recourse. He turned to thievery to survive and built a rap sheet with local cops. Jason admitted that his descent into crime fit into a cycle of self-hatred that had started during his child abuse.
And I can only imagine what you would feel like. And it's not a shocker that whether it's serial killers or people that live a life that is just immersed in crime and drugs and addiction, there's usually something like this at the source, right?
Yeah, the core of
Not
it,
always,
obviously.
not always. And I'm not saying this excuses any behavior, because obviously I think, we all eventually learn right from wrong, but mental health's a real fucking thing, and I can only imagine what something like that does to your brain chemistry.
No, at that age, for sure. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Some of those guys, serial killer wise, had some serious shit happen to them. Does it, make what they did better? No.
No.
And to be honest, most of these fucking pedophiles probably had the same thing happen to them when they were kids. But
Yeah. I mean, these
you,
monsters are being created by other monsters.
right, and it's time to start getting rid of some of them. So Jason was quoted as saying, "My silent understanding was that I was worthless, a throwaway. The foundations laid in my youth never went away." By then, Vukovich had a criminal record spanning from Washington to Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and California. Around 2008, he moved back home to Alaska. There, he racked up a number of criminal charges, including theft, possession of a controlled substance, and the assault of his then wife, which Vukovich denies.
So when it says assault of his wife, is that what sort of assault?
I would imagine probably domestic. I doubt
Gotcha.
it'd be any sort
Just
of
like roughed her
criminal
up a little
sexual
bit.
assaults. Yeah, who
Not to
knows?
belittle it, but
Yeah. So 2016, Vukovich untreated childhood trauma reached a boiling point. He had began to read through the sex offender registry of Alaska and decided to get his own brand of justice.
it's no
Love that
surprise
idea.
that this happened in Alaska, right? I mean, it's probably you're sitting around, it's winter for 10 months of the year, and for 8 of those 10 months, it's only light out for like 2 fucking hours or whatever. And it's no surprise that someone would, decide on this as a way to pass the time. And I think it's
Yeah.
a great choice. Talk about a great hobby.
Go find a couple pedophiles and beat the fuck out of them. So June 2016, Jason Vukovich sought out 3 men who were listed in the sex offender registry. Gripping a notebook filled with names and addresses of sex offenders he found in the public index, Vukovich targeted the homes of Charles Albee, Andres Barbosa, and Wesley Damaris. The Alaskan Avenger knocked on Albee's door first on the morning of June 24th, 2016. He pushed the 68-year-old inside and ordered him to sit on the bed. Vukovich slapped Albee across the face several times and told him he had found his address and knew what he had done. Then Vukovich simply robbed him and left. Kind of weak.
Yeah, but maybe
Kinda
he,
weak.
maybe he was just feeling it out at that point, like kind of got in there in the moment, and maybe he had some sympathy because he was an old man, possibly, like right
Yeah,
then and
and I
there.
kind of thought the same when I was reading that, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, did that old man have any fucking sympathy when he did
No,
what he did?
sure, but I'm saying, but
Yeah,
you're
that beat the
not
brakes off
wired.
that fucking
You're
guy.
not wired the same way that person is. I mean, I imagine that you've been,
I
there's those
I've
moments
never
where
I've
I'm
never
not
been
saying
raped as a 12-year-old either. So in my
no,
mind, I'm
but I
thinking,
think
fuck, maybe he's gonna take it to the house.
I mean, I know that there's times, maybe not physically, but verbally, like someone has been deserving of, uh,
A fucking ass whipping.
well, I'm saying verbally, like someone has behaved in a certain way, and they definitely deserve to be told about themselves, and then you tell them about themselves, and then almost feel bad, especially if they've seemed visibly impacted by what you've said to them.
Right.
And just because, like, as a person, you're not that person that's capable of those things. So you do feel some empathy or guilt
Right.
or whatever about your behavior. And so I think that there may have been some sympathy given to the guy because of his age. And two, it was the first time he'd done anything like this.
He's
And
no, he's done a little time in the pen, so maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, "Oh, fuck,
I don't know if I want to go
this might
back.
not turn out
They
great."
might just slap me on the wrist for smacking him around and taking his money.
All right, so 2 days later, Vukovich used the same method to enter Barbossa's home. This time, however, he appeared at 4 a.m. and brought 2 female accomplices. Vukovich threatened the 25-year-old registered pedophile. Way to go from one end to the other, 68 to 25. I
Yeah, I
love it.
like this a lot. I mean, they both are good, but
He's
this is good.
covering all bases. He told him to sit down and punched him in the face before warning that he would bash his dome in. Later bail memorandum revealed that Vukovich stated he was there to collect what Barbosa owed. As one of the 2 women filmed the incident, that's an awful idea with a cell
Yeah.
phone. Don't write anything down, don't record it. Awful fucking idea. I wish I could have helped this guy out. So Vukovich and the other woman then robbed Barbosa and stole several items, including the man's truck. Also not a great idea.
No.
The
No.
third
Too many
time
ways.
Vukovich had went after one of his targets, the violence escalated. I love that. I love that. Damaris heard somebody breaking into his home at around 1 a.m. Yet again, Vukovich had knocked on the door and forced himself inside. He told me to lay down on my bed, and I said no, Damaris recalled. He said, "Get on your knees," and I said no. Vukovich struck Damaris in the face with a hammer. During the assault, Vukovich told his victim, "I'm the avenging angel, and I'm going to met." I don't know.
Is it Met Out?
Met
Met
out
Out
justice.
Justice. Yeah.
I should have fucking got into that thing. I don't know what that is. Vukovich stole an assortment of items, including a laptop, and fled. Waking up in his own blood, Damaris called the police. Didn't take long for authorities to find the perpetrator, as Vukovich was sitting in his Honda Civic nearby with a hammer, stolen goods, and a notebook containing the names of the 3 victims.
So at this point, he gets arrested right on the spot when the police show up. They charge him with 18 counts of assault, robbery, burglary, and theft. And he initially pled not guilty, but opted to make a deal with the prosecution instead. So Vukovich pled guilty to the first-degree attempted assault and a consolidated count of first-degree robbery. And in exchange, prosecutors dismissed over a dozen additional charges, and this led to his sentencing in 2018 of 28 years in prison with 5 years suspended and another 5 on probation.
Okay, so
It's a long
let's
fucking time to go
let's
away
talk
from
about
beating
that.
some people's ass. Now you fuck somebody up with a hammer, that's probably a little. I mean, these
Yeah,
people deserved it, but I'm saying I'm sure that ratcheted it up the level of
that's
assault.
some bullshit. Okay, because I guarantee, obviously, all 3 of these motherfuckers, whatever they did, they're out and walking around.
So,
Guarantee
but
not
when
one of them
someone
spent 28 fucking years.
question
This
when s-
this
when
Go ahead.
someone's on the sex offender list,
Yes, it
are you
usually lists
able?
what happened.
They do.
Yes, but not in graphic detail. But you can tell the worst of the worst because they usually have a tag with it.
Gotcha. Because I was gonna say,
They
like, what
won't
if
tell
one of these
ages.
guys, like, what if the 25-year-old was like 20 and
Yeah,
had a
she was
17-year-old
17.
girlfriend, and he now like statutory rape or whatever? But
So usually
that's
it
why
would
I
list
wondered.
that.
Gotcha.
Not
Because that
not statutory, but it'd give you a good idea.
right.
So you see 68-year-old man victim, usually greater than, less than this age.
Sure.
And then the rest is up to your imagination.
Gotcha. I mean, is it
But
possible that he? Not saying it's right because it's against the. But is it
it,
possible that one of these
these
people
weren't all
was
3 statutory rape victims. No,
oh,
guaranteed not.
gotcha.
Guaranteed not. Fuck, they give the names. We could
Right.
probably look them up, see exactly what these
Sure.
assholes did, to be
So in
honest.
2017, he writes a letter to the Anchorage Daily News and clarified his motivations and regrets. And he says, I quote, I thought back to my experiences as a child. I took matters into my own hands and assaulted 3 pedophiles. He wrote, if you have already lost your youth, like me, due to a child abuser, please do not throw away your present and your future by committing acts of violence.
Don't
This,
completely agree with that, but
yeah, right. I mean, he's basically saying, don't do what I did.
which is, I mean, he's taking the fucking Robin Hood turn, and I'm good with that. But no, you definitely. I think you want to talk about a little rehabilitation for the victim. Sometimes I think that's probably the only way to squash that fire. It sounds healthy.
So I know obviously pedophiles tend to be targeted in prison. Do you think he was welcomed as a hero?
God, I would hope so. I hope the fucking CO carried him in on his shoulders, fucking piggyback ride that guy right to his cell. That's bullshit. 28 years. Name one fucking pedophile you know that spent 25 years, 28 years. Not one of
Right.
those cocksuckers. That's the problem.
True.
That's my biggest problem with this. It's not even like obviously he broke the law. The thief, I think more of the thievery and shit's what got him where he's at. You should have
Just
went in
seems
there,
to
just beat
be,
the fucking brakes off all 3 of them, left their shit
yeah.
alone. I would way be on board with it.
Yeah. And I think that the context matters, man, when but unfortunately in the justice system it doesn't always.
Well,
But
we read a little
context
bit, the
matters.
judge. We read a little bit, and the judge will tell you exactly what he thinks about this as well.
Okay, so Vukovich appealed his sentence on the grounds that his PTSD should be considered a mitigating factor in his case, but he lost the bid in October of 2020. Despite his hero status among some Alaskans, the judge ruled vigilantism won't be accepted in our society.
And unfortunately, judge, justice usually isn't fucking accepted in the society either. And that's the fucking problem. That's
Right.
my issue with it.
I
You
mean,
see, you know,
I get it's probably not a great thing. Just looking objectively, like I fully support what this guy did. But it's probably not a great thing as a society to give the impression to people that they can go take justice into their own hands, and especially in the way our justice system works, where you have precedent all the time. And I guarantee you, if some way this guy didn't get what he got in terms of his sentencing, it would be brought up in every single case of any sort of retaliation till the end of time, as a precedent, and maybe that's part of it, just because you'd have everyone that was claiming to be retaliating for something throwing that case out there as, well, here's an example of where the law was applied in this way.
unfortunately, I guarantee out of these 3 fucks, all right, and I'm going to say this, it's going to be uncomfortable to say, but out of these 3 fucks, one of them guaranteed, forcefully penetrated a child, male or female. And they were somehow out walking around everyday fucking people when they, in my eyes, have forfeited that right forever.
I agree.
Okay. And because this guy broke into their house, took some things, and beat their fucking ass, he's probably going to spend the majority of the rest of his life there. That I don't get.
Right.
That I don't get.
These are what I
Somehow,
feel
each
like
one of these motherfuckers is out living healthy among other people. That shouldn't happen
sure.
at all.
And these are what I consider to be like the facts of the situation. Um, he was assaulted, molested as a child, has all sorts of anger and resentment. Naturally, he feels anger towards other pedophiles, seeks them out, and delivers justice of his own. All right. Obviously, that happened. His motivations are very clear as far as why he did those things. Um, I think that under the way that our current justice system exists, I don't know that I understand why it was ruled the way it was, like just objectively as our laws are written and the way the justice system works. The problem is the system is fucking broken. Like at the end of the day, that's the issue. The issue is the system is fucking broken. And that's what, like I said,
With
because this is a case that would have opened up a whole fucking can of worms in cases that aren't related to someone retaliating for sexual, for fucking against pedophiles. It's something that would just be rearing its head in other situations
What about
forever.
what about that girl in California that had been trafficked and she killed the person who supposedly was like pimping her out? Her ass is sitting in jail.
Right.
Did you ever see that?
I did not. No, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I want to be clear. I'm not saying I agree with it in terms of what I think is right and just. But I'm not surprised. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
So his final victim, Wesley Damaris, has publicly expressed his relief that Vukovich is behind bars. Fucking coward. Adding that he would prefer if Vukovich wasn't walking around while I'm alive. Well, I'm sure that your victim would prefer that you weren't walking around while they're alive.
That's exactly what
One
the
article
article was written after him.
Okay, one article written about Damaris's reaction remarks dryly, one must wonder if his victim feels the same. Exactly. Now, 70 years old, Damaris struggles to form coherent sentences good. And he also has lost his job in wake of the traumatic brain injury he sustained at Vukovich's hands. It just pretty well destroyed my life, he said. So he got what he wanted, I guess. Absolutely. Hell yes. Fuck that
That's
guy. We need to find his address and send him a letter and say, fuck you. You
he
got
can't
what you
read it,
deserve.
but that's all right. We'll put
From
it
the
in big
pub,
letters.
audio message. I'm sure he's on social media. We'll just clip him out in this fucking thing, you piece of shit. Fuck, I'm fired up now.
Come to find
Vukovich's
out he's a
attorney,
Catholic priest.
probably, yeah, he's Archbishop of Alaska. Vukovich's attorney, Ember, is it Tilton?
Oh yeah, I love Tilton.
Meanwhile, shares the views of thousands who have pledged their support for his client on several online petition sites, pleading for his release. To them, the cyclicality of violence and trauma is unlikely to end by keeping victims turned criminals in jail. Quote, I don't think he needs to be punished, said Tilton. He's already been punished. This whole thing started out as punishment of a child who didn't deserve to be treated this way.
Vukovich has urged others who have been victims of childhood sexual abuse to seek inner peace and reject vigilante justice. I began my life sentence many, many years ago. It was handed down to me by an ignorant, hateful, poor substitute of a father. I now face losing the rest of my life due to the decision to lash out at people like him. To all those who have suffered like I have, love yourself and those around you. This is the only true way forward.
Yeah, man. And I think that the guy seems, you hear what he says, and I haven't heard any interviews or anything of him. I'm sure there's a few out there.
There is a petition out there. It's that same change.org you see for a lot of people. It's worked for
Sure.
some people. So anybody that hears this, as soon as I seen it and kind of read through this thing, I fucking signed it. There's about 30,000 people that signed it. I don't know how many people it takes, but fucking sign the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Sign that fucking let this guy see the light of day one more time. See what he does with it. Give him another fucking chance.
So
Give
what do you
these
think
other three fucking assholes another chance. Let's
what do you
give
think
him
he
one.
does with it? Do you think he goes out and just picks up where he left off?
God, I hope so. A little bit, I hope so, but also a little bit, I hope
do you
he's
think he'd
maybe
give him
buried some of
the
that.
Charlie
and just-
Manson treatment when he goes to the parole board and says, "You let me out, I'll do it again." Like,
fuck it. So there's some good pictures of that Damaris guy. He incoherent. Fuck, he probably wasn't coherent to begin with, but he took a couple good shots with that hammer. Which he
sure, man.
deserved.
Like, and fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
If he's
If I
really
was that
thinking, he would
guy-
use the fucking claw instead of the other.
Is that
one.
guy still alive?
Who? Yes,
What's his name?
it's Wesley, which sounds like a fucking pedophile. Damaris.
Spell it.
Wesley?
Damaris.
DEMA.
Yep.
Rest. MAREST. Let's see if he's still alive, unalive.
This is someone that has that name, unfortunately, but he looks like he lives in Delaware and is much younger.
How much younger?
I mean, like, well, how old was Damaris supposed to be?
He was 70 at the
70
time
some,
of
yeah.
this in the 20s. Or DEMAREST. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
spelled it right.
Well, let's see. I don't know. I'll have to do some searching, man. I'd like to see if we can find this piece of shit.
Yeah,
And
let's find him. Let's see what the fuck he did.
yeah,
Come to find out, maybe he's the statutory rape guy, but still, fuck him.
for sure, man. No, I agree. And is that who
No,
we're fucking today?
Oh, 1,000%. But that or whoever the president of NAMBLA is, will fuck him too. North American Man Boy Love Association. I can't even believe arguments like that even exist. They're out there. You got to piss, don't you? You're putting the twist on, son.
Uh-huh.
Speak your mind.
No, well, it's all right, man.
Now that I know
don't
you're
know.
there, I'm gonna dig it a little bit.
Well,
I
I don't
guess.
know, man. I don't know if we might be close to wrapping this thing up. If we are, I'll just hang on and go take a leak when we're done. And if you feel like we
No,
have a lot more to say on the subject, then we can
no,
take it.
but the fact that that argument even exists out there, that there are people that will sit and preach to you, that there are people who may be attracted to a younger whatever, and it's like, don't even fucking come at me with that. Not for a
Right.
second. You know, like I get it. As you get older, you see a 20-year-old girl, you're 50, 40, 30.
Right.
Like, I get it.
But there's a difference between, and I'm not saying it's right, but there's a difference between thinking it and fucking acting on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, the second you've acted on it, you've
sure.
foregone anything that I'm gonna fucking give you
Yep. I
ever.
mean, and like I said, I'm not trying to say it's okay to think those creepy ass things, but let's be fucking honest. In the deepest recesses of our own minds, we all think about some really, really fucked up things sometimes that we would hope that no one ever finds out about.
We just talked about 10 of them earlier.
That's true. We did.
I was perfectly okay with it. But
Yep.
it does happen. Not for shit like this, though. Very unfortunate. It's a hard line here in the pub. Pub law.
Pub law. No pedophiles.
Yes, kill your local pedophile. You ready to do this, pal?
Let's do it, buddy. Get that old speckled hen cracked.
That's right. All right. Here's to those that wish us well. All the rest can go to hell. Fuck you, Wesley. Now and forever. Oh, it works when I unmute it. I had it muted just in case the ghost wanted to play some shit. Good night, everybody. Fuck you, Wes.
Everybody in the club getting tipsy. I won't deny it, I'm a straight rider. You don't wanna fuck with me. I got the police fussing at me, but they can't do nothing to a G.
Wow, 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 it's very nice.